Chapter 19, How to Steal a Dog. I stared up at the stained ceiling tiles of the school nurse's office, trying to make my stomach settle down. For once, I hadn't lied to Mr. White. I really did have a stomachache. I'd had one ever since I'd left Carmela's yesterday. I had left her house and gone back to the car. I knew I should have gone over there and taken care of Willy, but I didn't. I guess I was hoping Mookie would share his liver pudding again. When Mama and Toby came back, I pretended like I was doing my homework, but I wasn't. I was writing one word over and over, like this: Willy, 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 Willy. And then, after Mama fell asleep, I didn't tell Toby that Carmela was getting the reward money from her Uncle Haywood. I didn't say that now it was time to take Willy back and get that money. I kept it all inside me where my aching stomach was. Finally, I took out How to Steal a Dog notes. I read all the way through them, starting with step 1, find a dog, and ending with step 7, and the part about stirring and stinking. I turned to a clean page and wrote April 28th. Then I added, step 8. If you want to, you can take the dog back and tell the owner that you don't want the reward money after all. Here's what will happen if you decide to do that. 1, the owner will be really happy and she can give the money back to her Uncle Haywood. 2, the dog will be happy because he's back home where he belongs instead of on that nasty porch. 3, you will be happy because you won't feel bad about stealing a dog, even though you still live in a car. 4, when you stop stirring, it will stop stinking. Or you can take the dog back and get the reward money like you planned. That is the decision you will have to make. I drew tiny little paw prints all around the edges of the page before I closed my notebook and put it away. And now, here I was in the nurse's office, staring up at those ceiling tiles with my stomach aching like anything. When the bell rang, I told the nurse I felt much better, even though I didn't. And I made my way through the pushing, shoving kids in the hall. Outside, I found Toby, and we headed over to the old house. The whole way there, Toby kept jabbering on and on about stupid stuff, like how his teacher had hollered at him for doing math with a pen and how some kid's gerbil got loose and went under the radiator. As usual, he was lagging behind, but I hurried on ahead. I needed to get Willy fast. I needed to snatch him up and hug him, and then maybe my stomachache would go away. As we hurried up the gravel road, my thoughts turned to Mookie. I sure hoped he was gone. I didn't need his crazy talk that made me feel so squirmy all the time. When we got to the house, I left my backpack by the road and pushed my way through the bushes toward the back. I rounded the corner, and the first thing I noticed was that Mookie's big blue tarp was gone. The little clearing where his sleeping bag had been was empty. Just a pile of blackened wood and an empty soda can. The silence suddenly hit me. Silence. Total silence. No happy little hello bark from Willy. I ran over to the back porch and yanked open the rickety screen door and wanted to die right then and there. Willy was gone. I must have looked like a crazy person racing around that little dirt yard, pushing aside the weeds and the bushes and hollering Willy's name. Toby kept saying, "What's wrong, Georgina?" And "What happened, Georgina?" Then he started bawling about Willy being gone, and I hollered at him to shut up. I ran to the edge of the woods and called Willy's name till my throat ached. The quiet that came back to me felt solid and mean, like a slap across the face. I hurried back out to the road, not even caring about the briars that were snagging my clothes and scratching my arms. I ran up one side of the road and down the other, peering through the trees and calling Willy's name. Finally, I stopped and held my aching sides, trying to catch my breath. Then I felt Toby punch me in the arm. "Willy's gone," he hollered, "and it's all your fault." He looked all wild-eyed and scared. "My fault?" "Yeah." Toby stomped back up the road toward the house. I ran after him and yanked the back of his t-shirt and made him stop. "It's Mookie's fault." I said. "I know he took Willy. I just know he did." Toby's eyebrows squeezed together. "Mookie took Willy?" I nodded. "I bet anything he did," I said. "He's crazy." I nodded. Oops, sorry, I just said that. "He's crazy. Well, what are we going to do?" I sat on the side of the road and put my head down on my knees. What were we going to do? I didn't have one single idea. Then Just when I was wishing that gravel road would open up and swallow me whole, I heard the ching-a-ching of a bicycle bell. I looked up and saw the best sight I'd ever seen in all my born days. Mookie was pedaling his rusty old bicycle up the road toward us, and trotting along beside him was Willy, his string leash tied to the handlebars of the bike. I jumped up and raced toward them. Mookie stopped the bike, and I scooped Willy up in my arms and buried my face in his warm fur. Then I felt a wave of mad sweep over me. "Why'd you take Willy?" I hollered at Mookie. "Take Willy?" Mookie's eyebrows shot up. "Well, if I don't put pepper in the gumbo," he said. "What's that mean?" I glared at him. I wasn't in the mood for his crazy talk. "Means you better slow your mouth down before you start coming out with such as that," he said. I pressed my face against Willy. His hair was all matted with mud and he smelled awful. "For your information, Missy," Mookie said, "I was clear on over there by the shopping center when that dog of yours came running up behind me." "Oh," I said. I knew I should have said more. I should have said, "I'm sorry." I should have said, "This dog's not mine." I should have said, "I stole this dog, but now I'm going to take him back." I finally managed to lift my head and look at Mookie. "Then thanks for bringing him back," I said. I wanted Mookie to say, "That's okay," but he didn't. He just nodded. I'd forgotten all about Toby until he suddenly said to Mookie, "Are you leaving?" Mookie nodded again. "I am," he said. He untied Willy's string leash and tossed it to me. Then he turned his bike around and pedaled off up the road away from us, leaving a wobbly tire track in the dusty road behind him. And in that instant, I knew I'd been wrong about Mookie. Well, maybe not totally wrong. He was kind of crazy, but I guess he was nice too, and smart, and someone who leaves a good trail behind him. "Mookie," I called off after him, "did you fix our car?" But he just kept pedaling away from us. Then right before he rounded the curve and disappeared from sight, he gave a little wave with his three-fingered hand. Suddenly, the woods seemed quieter than they had been before. Not a bird chirping, not a leaf rustling, just silence. "What do we do now?" Toby said. I looked at Willy. He cocked his head at me and made me smile. "We take Willy home," I said. "When?" "Tomorrow." "Yes!" Toby pumped his fist in the air. "Then we get that money, right, Georgina?" But I didn't answer. I just hugged Willy.